Welcome to the next module, and today we're going to look at supplements and for, I guess, the optimal health and longevity. Now, I know we touched on this in the first 12 week program, but I want to look into a bit more depth and why and how and do we really need them, and some of the brands that I recommend and suggest that you at least look at. So first of all, let's look at what are supplements, and this was a definition that I pulled from the internet. Dietary supplement is a manufactured product intending to supplement one's diet by taking a pill, capsule, tablet, powder, or liquid. Supplement can provide nutrients either extracted from food sources or that are synthetic in order to increase the quantity of their consumption. I just want to make it clear that supplements are exactly that. They're a supplementation. They're a supplement to a diet. They're not to be used instead of. All of the supplements I'm going to talk about are an addition, and we should all be trying to eat as healthy as possible with the most nutrients. And these are, ideas and products that can actually take you to a different level. So first of all, the question is, do I need to supplement? Do you need to supplement? Well, and this is kind of the question that I get all the time. But Gav, I eat a balanced diet. Can't I get all the nutrients I need from my diet? Balanced diet, that's debatable, but let's look at that, and let's just be honest. And I'm going to go from what the data shows us. This is not my opinion, this is what the data is showing us. So let's take a look. Well, first of all, we need to look at the RDA levels, and that's the recommended daily amount. Those levels were actually set back in 1941. Okay, and nothing's changed. So here we are in 2021 as I record this module. It's what, 80 years ago. So things have changed. Our needs have changed, the environment has changed, the world has changed. It's a very, very different place to where it was, in the war. So the RDA levels were set, and they were set for bare minimum. So almost like basic nutrition. They were set at levels that would avoid potential disease, things like scurvy and rickets and pellagra, which, in the Western world, not many people get. Maybe in the, developing world, some people still do, but it's very uncommon. They're set 80 years ago, and it's just not the same environment. And one of the problems is the decline in soil quality. And this is particularly evident in America, where farming, the soil has just been used over and over and over again. I think when we talk about vitamins and minerals certainly come from the soil that, fruits, vegetables are grown in. And the problem is the soil is being raped in nature to be used over and over again, pillaged, replanted, and the quality of soil is just not where it was. It just isn't where it was, 50, 60, 70 years ago. Ironically, the quality of food back in the 1940s, 50s, 60s was way better than the food now, because farming and agriculture wasn't on the scale that we have now. So although weirdly enough, the RDA levels were set back then, it was probably easier in certain circumstances to get the levels of nutrients. So in an ideal world, we wouldn't need supplements. But the way food has gone, agriculture, and that's whether you're eating meat or just fruits and vegetables, whether you're vegetarian or vegan, the quality, the taste is there for sure. It looks great, but the quality is just not there in terms of nutrients because of what's gone on with the farming and produce world. On top of that, this is the main problem, the high chemical load exposure. And that's from pollution. Well, you think about how many more people there are in the world from 80 years ago, how many more cars? I mean, how many cars were there in 1940? Not many at all. Now everyone's got a car. The amount of products that have been invented, plastic products, the amount of air travel, the amount of pollution on every single level you can think of, cleaning and personal care products. Now I know that we all use things like makeup, cleaning products, personal care products, aftershave, perfume, all these different things, but they're man-made. Anything that's man-made is going to have chemicals. And although it might not be toxic in in an individual dose, if you put some shower gel on your body, it's unlikely to cause you a problem acutely, but over time, our body, if anything that goes on our skin, has been taken into our bloodstream. So we're under a massive, massive load, a massive chemical load exposure that just wasn't apparent in the 40s, 50s and 60s. It's really in the last 70 years. So from about, I guess, 1950s, 1960s, when things took a different turn, when mass production of so many things, probably started in America, a lot of this. That's on top of the water supply. There's a different debate for another time, but our water from our taps is water that's been used over and over again. It's sewage water that's cleaned. You think how many chemicals have to go into water to actually clean sewage water that we can re-drink it. On top of that, it's been tested as this contraceptive pill. Obviously, women take when they then go to the toilet, and all the other drugs that are either prescribed or illegal. Just because they're prescribed doesn't mean necessarily healthy for us, and they're certainly not in some instances. And also all the drugs across the world where everyone takes on one level or another, goes to the toilet, it's put into our water. So there's trace residue. So we're under a massive, massive load, chemical load exposure, which just didn't happen back in the 40s and the 50s. And it's evident, 9 out of 10 of us will die from some type of degenerative disease. And if we look at many, not all of them, but many of the degenerative diseases that exist in the 21st century, 100 years ago, they didn't exist. Very few people died from cancer. Very few people died from diabetes. Very few people died from heart disease, stroke, diabetes, all these different things. They're man-made diseases. And here's the thing. We've got more knowledge around food and nutrition, but we're getting sicker. We're becoming more ill. The human population more people are becoming sick. The more we know, as the world progresses, we're actually getting more and more ill. More and more people, we haven't got cures for these. So, more people are getting obese. More people are dying of diseases, 9 out of 10. So my aim is to try and be in that be the 1 out of 10. And hopefully you can be as well. So that's just the evidence. And this is not my opinion. This is fact. This is the situation of the world. This is the exposure we're under to chemicals. So the answer, can you get all the nutrients from your food? The answer is no. The answer is no. And another question I get asked, well, aren't all vitamins the same? Do I have to pay expensive amounts? Vitamins are vitamins. Surely a vitamin is just a vitamin. And that's what a lot of people will still think. But that's like comparing a Reliant Robin to a Porsche. They're both cars, but there's a massive difference. It's almost like a different ballpark comparing to a top quality supplement with the right ingredients, the right amounts, and that actually works. I'm going to use a classic example is when you buy something off the high street, maybe in the chemist. Over here in the UK, we've got Boots, the chemist, and they do their, one a day, 365 multivitamins for about 10 quid or something. It's just a very, very poor product comparing that to not necessarily an expensive product, but a well thought out product. So they're both the same thing, but the reality is they're very, very different. So this is what you kind of need to look out for when it comes to supplementation and any products that you take. They need to be pharmaceutical grade. And I'll explain what that means. Now, in the world of pharmaceuticals, everything has to be exactly what they say. For example, if you see a tablet that says it's 200 milligram ibuprofen, which is anti-inflammatory, by law, it has to be 200 milligram ibuprofen. So there's no 199, it's not 201. The weight is exactly the same. It's exactly that amount, and it's tested. And we know that we can trust that because it's pharmaceutical grade. So we know it's the purest form. Okay. Now, unfortunately, in the vitamin mineral world and the supplement world largely across the board, there's no governing bodies. It's almost like it's the Wild West. This is true. We could actually start a vitamin C company now, produce vitamin C, and there's no governing body will actually come around and test it. So the chances are I will have some vitamin C in, but will it have the right amount, the right dose? Does it actually work? Will it even have the product in? They've actually tested supplements from the high street and it didn't even contain the active ingredient that it was meant to have. And there's no regulatory body. There's no one coming around checking this. Now, a lot of companies aren't like that. I'm not saying that all companies are like that, but some are. But this is what you need. You need purity and potency guaranteed. And a lot of the products I'm going to talk about have got that purity and potency guaranteed. And they're pharmaceutical grade, quality controlled, the manufacturing process. A lot of these companies will outsource their manufacturing process. So they'll just send the ingredients and they leave it up to someone else. And contamination can happen. Other products can get into that if the factory is used for different products. So there's cross-contamination. So that you've got to be very, very careful of that. And also the doping agency. There's a website called the www.informedsport.com. And all the athletes, professional athletes certainly, will only take products that are actually on that website. There's other ones in different countries, but that's one of the ones here in the UK. So if the product's not on there, it doesn't necessarily mean it is tainted, but it's unlikely that a professional athlete will take it, because if they did have a drug test and it was deemed down to their supplement, they can't say that it was on the doping agency. These are the products that have been passed, they've been tested, pharmaceutical grade to a certain extent, and they know they're not going to fail a drug test. Now, bioavailability, that means, does it actually work? You can take a vitamin, let's say you take a vitamin D, but if it's in the wrong form, the body won't absorb it. If it's the wrong type, it can actually have contraindications with other vitamins. It can actually sit in the body and do more harm. So bioavailability, it doesn't matter how much is in a product, can the body actually absorb it? And can the body actually use that nutrient to do the job it's meant to? And a big thing as well, is the supplement trusted or used by athletes? It's all well having all these different things, but if athletes aren't using them, you've got to be thinking, these guys and girls do this for a living. This is their job. This is how they make money. They're using the top quality products because they want the best results. So if an athlete is using a certain product, bear in mind, there's no sort of financial gain for a lot of these in certain circumstances. So if an athlete's nutritionist or nutrition team has said, use this product because it's going to get you the best performance at the Olympics or the World Cup or something like that, it means a lot. Now there are some athletes are sponsored by companies and say they take the product, but we know damn well that they take something else. But if they're actually using the product, we know that their nutritionist, to a certain extent, has looked into the efficacy of the product and how it works. But here are some of the types of supplements, and this is not an exhaustive list. This is just some of the ones. I mean, I literally could go on all day long with listing every supplement, but I've kind of tried to put them into broad topics. So the main one that I'm really focusing here is multivitamin minerals, and that's kind of like your multivit that you pick up from the supermarket or from the health store. And that's just covered. A multivitamin, a good quality multivitamin, just covers all the basic, A, B, C, D, all these ones, multivitamins and minerals. So it's probably a good start for most people. Most important supplement for many is omega-3, 6, and 9s, which is just really your fish oils. We've got more creatine, amino acids, which is AA and HMB, which are really more like muscle building products. So possibly not that relevant for many of you, although I do actually take creatine, but not from a muscle building perspective. But yeah, creatine, amino acids, and HMB. Whey protein, which you all know about by now. And there's so many different proteins within that category. Additional vitamins, the C, D, E, B3, B12, again, just some of the ones at the top of my head. There's many, many more, but they're kind of the big ones that most people add to if they want a certain amount, a certain effect in different areas. And some other sort of cofactors, some minerals, calcium, magnesium, and turmeric. and probiotics as well, which are just for gut health. So I've tried to keep them into broad topics. As I said, it's not an exhaustive list, but some of the ones that I think are very important have more relevance to you guys. And these are some of the actual sources that I use. And that's actually a list of the current products that I use. And am I saying that you should use them? You could. In fact, you get great results from using them, but it's quite expensive to have all that. But I don't mind spending that because I know how valuable these are. But first of all, the multivitamin and mineral, and that's from a company called USANA Health Sciences, which some of you may be aware of. I mentioned that in our first 12 weeks. Fish oil, USANA actually do a very good fish oil, but I'm using one from Nutri, and it's called Eskimo 3. It's a very, very good, high quality fish oil that I trust. Vitamin D from a good company called Amino Man. I actually know the guy who owns the company, Matt Lovell, who used to be the nutritionist for the England rugby team in 2003 when we won the World Cup back against Australia. So yeah, he's just one of the top nutritionists in the country. That's actually his company, Amino Man. Whey protein, I'm currently using one from Optimum Nutrition. Very, very good protein, great flavor. Creatine, there's so many. The creatine is probably one of the most studied supplements, and it's probably the most powerful in terms of athletic performance. But it's also very, very good from a cognition standpoint. The one that I use just from Amazon is New You Nutrition, and liposomal vitamin C. This is just vitamin C that's absorbed more readily by the body. You can get normal vitamin C tablets, but this liposomal is actually in a pipette, like a squeezy pipette in liquid form from Vita Blossom. Vitamin B12, there's a company called Better You do a nice spray, and you just spray that sublingually under the tongue. And the probiotics I'm using from a company called BioCult. So you may want to check some of that out. In fact, under this video in the space underneath, you'll see a link to all of those products and where you can get them. I've got no affiliation with any of these products. These are just purely recommendations on my part. So if you order them, nothing to do with me. But these are the ones that I'm currently using at the moment. And I think they're invaluable for my health. And from the research and from what I know about supplementation and being in the world of nutrition for, I guess, best part of 20, 25 years, this is just something that I personally want to do. Now, it might seem a lot, might be a bit overwhelmed by that. But before that, and I've mentioned this many times before, you have to get the basics in place. If you're not sleeping well, if you're not hydrated, if you're not moving your body, if you're not eating well, and you haven't reduced your stress, it's almost pointless to add those things to your diet. It's almost pointless because the best results, like here, for example, let's say someone is not doing any of the basics. They're not sleeping well, they're not eating, drinking, they're very stressed, they're not exercising. If they're not doing that and they took every supplement on the planet, it wouldn't help them. It wouldn't bring them up to a level. We need the foundation in place because our bodies are designed to have all of this. We're meant to sleep well, we're meant to be hydrated, meant to move our body, meant to control stress. We can't eliminate it, meant to control it. And we're meant to take care of ourselves with nutrients from our food. That's where we get the bulk of a good life, a good healthy life. Once the foundation in place, then you can add the supplements in. So unless you've got all the other things in place, I wouldn't even look at supplements. Now, most of you have to a certain extent. Then you can start to add a few things in. As I said, you could be overwhelmed by that list. I'm not saying that you should go out and do that, but here's what I would say. Nearly all of you, not nearly all of you could benefit from if you've got the basics in place. And the first thing I would look at would be a multivitamin mineral, a quality multivitamin mineral. Now, unfortunately, the one a day that you'll find in Boots or Holland & Barrett just isn't enough. The one that I take from USANA, their daily dose is 4 tablets. Sorry, it's actually 8 tablets, 4 of each, 4 of the multivitamins and 4 of the minerals, because it's the amounts that are needed for optimal living. When we talked about the RDA levels, that's just recommended daily amounts. the amount that's actually needed from an optimal level of performance on nutrients is far more. So the tablet would have to be the size of a gobstopper. So they make it into 8 tablets. I take 4 in the morning, 4 in the evening. So a multivitamin, a good quality. I'm not saying you have to get USANA. They're just my personal preference. I believe the best on the market, but a good multivitamin mineral will be a great start for all of you. Secondly, fish oil. There's many good brands out there, but as I said, I mentioned I'm using the one from Nutri, the Eskimo oil, and you can do your own research on fish oil. I've talked about it many times. It's probably easy to say what that stuff doesn't do, but in terms of brain health, heart health, joint health, gut health, it's look at it as oiling the car. If you didn't put oil in your car would break down. Do you really need to know what the oil's doing, except that it's transported to every part of that engine? And that's pretty much what fish oil does. It's one of the best supplements. It's been proven. This is not just my opinion. Research has shown that it's a fantastic supplement to have. And vitamin D, this has really come into its own, certainly the last 5 to 10 years. Vitamin D, as you probably know, is very hard to get from your diet, the amounts we need. Usually the best source is from the sun. Now, if you live in Europe, or certainly Northern Europe, you can forget about that. Even in the summer, the sun isn't strong enough. We're not exposed enough to it. To get the amount that we need from the sun, you would need to be fully exposed, as in naked, for 1 hour a day. Now, unless you're sunbathing on your roof, and even if you did that, the sun that we get, certainly here in the UK, just isn't the right amount. It's not the right intensity. So you have to supplement it. And it's hormone. That's actually, vitamin D is a hormone, and it's linked to immune system, general good health, hormone production. They would be my top 3 if I was on a budget. If I, out of all those 7 or 8 that I mentioned, I had to boil it down to the top 3. This would cover you. Good multivitamin and mineral, fish oil for all the things we mentioned, and vitamin D. And then you could think to add extra ones in. You could say whey protein, but that's more from the weight loss and athletic gain. I know a lot of you are taking that already, but it wouldn't be something you would have to have from a health perspective. It could be more of a product that would help you obtain your daily protein amounts. So those would be my top 3. And so start there, guys. Hopefully that's made a lot of sense. Of course, if you've got any questions, give me a shout. I'll talk to you on the next module on our one-to-one coaching call, and we can, if you want, on our coaching call, we can go over the recommendations, where to get these from. I can point you in the right direction. All right, guys, I will see you soon. Take care.